Hello, my lovelies. Did you know that if you have Ancestry.com that you have a great research tool for looking into historical clothing at your very fingertips? I didn't either until just a few days ago. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Althea, and we talk about sewing, courage, creativity, and all things history bounding. Today I'm going to show you how to use your History.com subscription to do some historical clothing research into some of the collections that they have there. It's probably not so unique that you need to go out and purchase an Ancestry subscription just for this, but if you have it already, it's a great place to find a wealth of information, whether it's for historical clothing or history bounding, looking at the time and place that those historical clothing or that history bounding would have happened. So I'll show you a few things that you can look at, and then you can hie off and explore to your own heart's content. Just want to let you know this video is not at all sponsored by Ancestry.com. What you're going to do is go to your search bar and you are going to scroll down past all of these very interesting things, but you're going to stay on target and go to the card catalog for today's video. These other sections on the card catalog can give context to your historical impressions. The newspapers are a really good source of information. For instance, in the advertisement sections, such as the one in the Gorham Anniversary Gazette, sometimes they have photographs, sometimes they have illustrations, sometimes they don't. These old newspapers and periodicals are a great source of clothing and accessory costs, what was being advertised, and what was available commercially. There are collections of photographs to look through, so let's look at the Library of Congress, the Women's Protest Photographs. There's several different types of collections here, and the photographs from the suffrage era are just full of clothing from the time. One thing that we need to keep in mind when you're doing your research for women's suffrage, or really any time period, is to understand that the context is systemic racism and how black women were excluded from the benefits that white women got from the women's suffrage movement. This collection of German heraldry going back to the 1300s is a bit different from the collections with photographs of people. If you're doing German historical clothing, this collection could provide another cultural reference point. I may need to go back and check if my German ancestors had coats of arms. Ancestry has a whole bunch of different collections of photographs from places around the world. This is useful if you're trying to put your historical clothing into a context of place. If you are doing historical garments around the time when a lot of people were immigrating, you can look at the collections of ship photographs for immigrants that came through Ellis Island. There's a collection of postcards from the United Kingdom and Ireland. These are great photographs because you see these costumes in place. You can really get a sense of place where these costumes would have been worn. People were visiting the coastlines and the various coastal resorts. There's a collection of earlier 20th century images from Canada that gives you an idea of what regular people were wearing back then. There is a collection of high school yearbooks for those interested in more recent times. This is one from the late 1970s that shows teenage fashions of the time, and yes, that's your truly right there in my high school yearbook. They have several collections devoted to photographs of African Americans through history. This collection shows working class individuals that were part of the war effort, along with some images of soldiers. I just want to caution that not all of the collections are handled in the most culturally sensitive way. When we do historical recreation or even history bounding around the edges, we need to look at the whole context and not cherry pick the parts of history that we like and leave out the uncomfortable bits. Otherwise, we're just playing make-believe and dressing up. There are several collections that would be useful for those of you researching military dress. These would be useful for those interested in World War I and II. For me, the real gem for doing costuming research is their collection of Sears and Roebucks catalogs going all the way back to 1896. You can download these images to your hard drive. They're all fairly high resolution. It's a great primary resource of what was actually being sold at the time. Sears sold not only clothing, but also sewing machines and everything from seeds to plows to corsets to houses. Sears and Roebucks could send it to you. I love these tea gowns. One of these days I may actually have to make one of them, or at least do some history bounding around this dress concept. My house was built in 1948, so I've been doing some research into the clothes that would have been worn in the time and some of the home furnishings from around then. Some of these outfits could have been worn by the folks that lived in this house when it was first built. I'm especially interested in some of the sportier outfits because I think this house was probably built as a weekend vacation home. It's now part of town, which is sprawled out to here. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to make some of these outfits for wearing around in the wintertime and perhaps doing some gardening in. So thank you for joining me for this quick jaunt through the resources over on Ancestry.com. I hope you found something of value, and if you did, please consider looking below in the description for ways to support this channel. I really do like making these videos for you, and even buying me a coffee really helps to support this channel so I can bring you more educational resources. And until next time, I bid you joy.